Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. We're your boys. We always got something to say with the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog. And today, guys, we're going to be looking at a blockbuster trade for these Toronto Blue Jays for former MVP Christian Yelich. Now, I know that he's not necessarily the guy that he once was, but he could still produce. So we're going to look into all of that, as well as taking a look at a big Cody Bellinger update. So stay tuned to the end, folks, because we're going to break all of that down and more. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below. Let's flash over to where all of this Christian Yelich stuff, started from. Also, big shout out to Battlegrounds, guys. If you're looking to throw axes or do anything like that, you're looking to have a party or something, then go to Battlegrounds, folks. It's going to be very safe, very accessible, guys. It is a phenomenal time. Jon Heyman came out and he was talking about Cody Bellinger, a lot of Cody Bellinger stuff, which we're going to get to, so wait for that. But he was also talking about Christian Yelich, and effectively he said that the Toronto Blue Jays, they have interest in the former NL MVP. Initial thoughts on Blue Jays looking over to the Milwaukee Brewers and saying, hey, we kind of like your guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise to me, right? You got another left-handed bat in Christian Yelich. Let me just confirm that right here, 100%. Yeah, another left-handed bat, veteran outfield guy you need to have. And looking over at the Milwaukee Brewers, I mean, hey, they're a team that always needs to clear up payroll. And if you're looking over at Christian Yelich's contract right now, you know he's got a lot of money left on the books, and the stats aren't necessarily lining up with that $22 million average annual value. So the Milwaukee Brewers might be kind of shopping around. We know that, according to Jon Heyman, that the talks were just kind of talks right now between the Blue Jays and the Milwaukee Brewers if they were willing to trade him. So that is very interesting for me if they do miss out on some other guys like Cody Bellinger, like we're saying, talking about later in this video. But the big question here is, Christian Yelich, right now in this contract, he doesn't really have a trade clause. Like, it's a no trade clause for him. So he actually has to agree to be traded over to Toronto Blue Jays. So before we dive into, does this make sense for the Jays? Do we want to get him? Does this even make sense for Christian Yelich to even go over to Toronto Blue Jays?
Listen, I think it could, right? Because the Milwaukee Brewers, they right now are potentially entering into a bit of a sell mode, potentially a rebuilding time, right? You're hearing stuff about Christian Yelich, no more Brandon Woodruff. You're hearing stuff about Corbin Burnes, right? If they lose Brandon Woodruff and they lose Corbin Burnes, who is going to throw innings for them, literally, who is going to keep the games close? Christian Yelich, he has made the playoffs plenty of times, but he's never had that strong opportunity to go out and actually win a chip, right? He's never been on a team that goes out and spends money. If you're the Toronto Blue Jays, I think that you could be an enticing option for him, because you could tell him, hey, dude, we're going to have you for 4 years. If you produce, we promise we are going to continue to build around you, right? If you are playing well, we will reward that by bringing in more guys, as the Toronto Blue Jays have done for several seasons now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question mark, because, I mean, I've even heard Milwaukee Brewers fans on Twitter kind of talking about this when this rumor kind of came out from Jon Heyman, saying, thank God, take this guy away from us, because, yes, I know from a Milwaukee Brewers standpoint, he's eating up a large part of your payroll, but also he's not really the guy that he used to be, and he's going into his age 32 year. Let's flash over the stats right here.
Let me just comment on those Milwaukee Brewers.
Go ahead.
I find that that's kind of a little bit ignorant right now. I mean, yes, he's not the guy that he once was, but looking at his last year's statistics, this is not a guy that you wouldn't want on your team, 370 on base right there. He had a good batting average, 818 OPS. No, there was not a whole lot of home runs, but 28 stolen bags. This, to me, looks like a guy who you could put in the Toronto Blue Jays. You have him at the 1 spot, you have him at the 2 spot, and that 818 OPS, that would have finished the second or third on the Blue Jays, right behind Brandon Belt, right behind Bo Bichette. This would have been a very good player for us down the stretch last season.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been, right? His WAR's, I think, 3.6?
3.6.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. He wouldn't lead the Blue Jays that category. The glove isn't as great, even though he doesn't have a gold glove. As of late, it hasn't been that great.
It hasn't been
I'm pretty sure his arm's got a value of 1, but his outs above average have been good. It's the 84th percentile. Look, 32 years old, that's the age that he's going to be entering 2024. For me, as a Toronto Blue Jays, look, if I'm going to make a trade, I need to ask myself, am I comfortable if this guy wasn't a trade target, right? If we missed out on Bellinger, right? Would I be comfortable signing, theoretically, Christian Yelich to a 4-year, $88 million deal, because that's kind of what you're looking at right here at age 32 after the year he just put up. Am I comfortable adding that guy for that kind of money? And for me, I don't know. Like, if you really do believe in the bat can come back and bounce back at 32 years old and he hasn't proved it since 2019, then yes, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I do hear what you're saying, and let us know what you think about that in the comments down below, guys. 4 years, 88 mil, like that's a decent chunk.
That's a big chunk.
If he produces the way that he produced last year, abso-freaking-lutely. But that is the big question. Is he going to maintain that level of production as he gets older? He has the potential to get better, but he also has the potential to get a lot worse. I will say to his credit that his worst years that he's really ever had in the MLB, those previous years to this, that's kind of like what George Springer did last year. So if that is his floor, then it's really not that bad. However, then you also got to factor in the fact that we might be giving something up to get this guy. It's not necessarily as simple as, oh, you signed him to 4 year, 88 mil, right? You also need to give something to get something here with the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, I think the one beautiful thing that kind of could help the Blue Jays make this trade happen is, look, we need to eat up their money, right?
Sure.
That's a lot of money. $88 million for this guy, again, is a lot to eat up, because if you do think of it from that perspective, like, I wouldn't add this guy on free agency for that kind of money, right? So if you talk to Milwaukee Brewers and you negotiate something like, okay, we'll give you maybe a little bit more prospect value if you take on a little bit more of this contract. Because at the end of the day, like, if we're going to think from big business, $22 million shouldn't really matter if it's not going to impact you going out and signing more guys from a Blue Jays standpoint. So if I just need to find quality players to put in the outfield, Christian Yelich is a fine player to put in the outfield, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you could work something out if you are worried about finances where, okay, eat a little bit, eat like a quarter of that contract, Brewers, and we'll give you a little bit more prospect value if you could eat a little bit more.
If the Brewers were to eat a quarter of that contract, then now you're looking at paying Cody Bellinger $16 million a year, which is like a lot nicer to me. Like that seems to me like a great deal for a guy who was a former MVP and who could put up some phenomenal years. I think what this really comes down to is how desperate are these Milwaukee Brewers to get rid of the money, Because if they are in a position right now where they're kind of sitting back and they're going, listen, it would be nice for us to get rid of this guy, but we don't have to if you're not going to give us the prospect capital in return, then I think if you're the Jays, you got to walk away from that, right? However, if they're in a position where it's like, oh, holy shit, we cannot afford to pay this guy this year, like we are in deep trouble if we keep him on the books, we got to let him go. Then it's the opportunity to pounce on that situation and hopefully kind of finagle like a little bit of a fleece operation right there.
Right. I mean, hey, they got to get rid of somebody, right? You got Corbin Burns on the books. You got Yellich on the books. They got to get rid of some. They're kind of doing what the Tampa Bay Rays are doing right now. And man, just a side note, I feel bad for those organizations that they have to get rid of quality players. Remember when they had to get rid of Josh Hader in the middle of a competitive season? That sucked for them.
No, it's complete bullshit, man. And I do feel bad for those smaller market teams, right? Because when you're looking at teams like the LA Dodgers, who are going out and who are getting Shohei Ohtani and who are pitching to Yamamoto and who are looking to trade for Glass now and trade for other guys, right? Like they're just doing everything more. And the fact is, it's easy for them because there's like half the teams in the MLB who are just simply incapable of doing what they're doing from a monetary standpoint.
Yeah, imagine, you guys saw that today. I guess this is like yesterday when this podcast comes out. You're Yamamoto. You come over. You see Ohtani, not Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman just chilling.
You
hey, come join the elites,
come join the super team.
Never will that happen with the Brewers. Instead, they got to trade their former MVP away to save dollars.
Potentially pennies on the dollar for what they're trading away.
Just ridiculous.
Now, I just had this thought right now, a little bit of a fantasy land here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, everybody. But is there a way, do you think, that the Toronto Blue Jays could finagle something where it's like you go out, you're eyeing Christian Yelich right now, and you can make it a little bit of a package deal. You get the Corbin Burns because we know that they're looking to potentially ship them both off. If that was a scenario for me, that's one of those things where I think because you're taking on Christian Yelich, because you're taking on that contract, the value of prospects that you now need to give up for Corbin Burns is probably a lot lower. that could be very enticing to me if they were to go out and say, hey, we're going all in this year. Let's get this Cy Young candidate.
I think it absolutely would require a package return. You know what I mean? I mean, like we've been in conversations of Alek Manoah. I feel like that could be a little bit something involved in there if you're getting all those kind of guys.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. Because at the end of the day, sure, there's money attributed, but they are still big names in the MLB. And like, even though Milwaukee's got to release some of the cash, I don't think they want to get fleeced too freaking hard. So there's the Christian Yelich stuff, everybody. Let us know what you think about that in the comments down below. Let's move on to Cody Bellinger.
Time for a quick shout out to Betway. Betway is the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite teams. Betway is also in collaboration with iGaming Ontario. Must be 19 years older to participate. And guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Scott Boras. Can't believe I'm saying this. Shout out to Scott Boras. He came out today and he was talking about how Shohei Ohtani's deal being $700 million, that actually is not going to be impacting any of these other free agents. So Bellinger, so Matt Chapman, anything like that. They're not necessarily going to be walking into negotiations saying, hey, Ohtani got paid $700. I need 300. It should be kind of status quo, as he puts it.
Yeah, I never really anticipated. I mean, I know we've kind of said it on this podcast. I never really anticipated that Ohtani's deal, as massive it is going to change Bellinger or Matt Chapman's kind of contract. Because I mean, like, let's face it,
he's fucking Ohtani.
He's Ohtani. They just can't pitch too. Like, and if I'm a team and I hear that, like, wait a minute, you want $100 million more because Ohtani got $100 million more? F you. You know what I mean?
Show me your 2021 stats, Cody, and then we'll talk.
Listen, Scott Boras, you make enough money. Like, he's now the good guy. Everyone had to overpay or almost overpay for Ohtani. He's the good guy now.
Sidebar, I don't want to derail this 100, totally, but when you look at what Ohtani's agent was pulling, sure, I'll take Scott Boras any day of the week.
Scott Boras is over CAA in my mind, like absolutely 10 out of 10.
1,000%, dude.
But yeah,
moving on to Cody Bellinger and looking at his contract, it's very good news for us that he's not necessarily going to be getting paid a ton because he's already asking like 200, 250. Jesus. And it does feel like the Toronto Blue Jays, they're actually finalists to get that done. Jon Heyman in this clip, we'll link the clip down below, everybody, so you can create your own opinion. But he talks about Christian Yelich in here, but he also mainly talks about Cody Bellinger and is basically linking him to the Chicago Cubs and then linking him to the Toronto Blue Jays. And those are the only two teams that he says, these are the two teams that are, head and tails effectively above everybody else. What are your thoughts on Toronto Blue Jays being one of the quote-unquote finalists for Cody B?
My biggest worry is that we're only being called finalists because it makes sense. I mean, that's what it was for the Ohtani stuff before the rumors started ramping up where he started coming and visiting Dunedin. But right now, all I'm hearing is Toronto Blue Jays media and respect to Jon Heyman saying the Blue Jays make sense. I haven't heard a single word on why it makes sense for Cody Bellinger.
Right.
You go over to Chicago, your career turns right around to almost MVP form yet again. Why would he leave, right? Why would he go over to Canada unless we're offering something way more than the Chicago Cubs? So that's my biggest worry is that it just makes sense from a fan standpoint, from a matchup standpoint, like dating app standpoint, but it doesn't make sense for Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, guys, like we are all very skeptical as Blue Jays fans right now because I don't want to get hurt again. Like we got used as leverage. We were basically, thrown to cast to the side for the LA Dodgers in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. I don't think anybody wants to feel that way again. So I do absolutely hear where you're coming from there, where it's like, hey, he played really good last year. He's got a home there. Why should he leave? I think if the Blue Jays are going to go out and they're going to get this guy, one, they're going to have to overpay. They're going to have to throw in 30 or 40 or 50 more million dollars than the Chicago Cubs. So now you're potentially looking at a 250, 260, 270 guy in Cody Bellinger. So that's number one. And then number two, you have to lay out the argument for him and really make it make sense as to why your team, the Toronto Blue Jays, are not only going to be better right now, but are also going to be better for the length of his contract. He's played on the LA Dodgers before. He has been on a team that is very, very successful. And I would imagine if you're Cody Bellinger, yes, you want your payday, but you also kind of want to go back to the postseason and maybe make a little noise. Yeah, and you also, in that argument, you gotta explain why you're better than the Cubs, right? Better than most teams, right? Sure.
I mean, you, as the Toronto Blue Jays, just comparing yourself straight to the Cubs, like, your pitching staff, and again, I'm probably ignorant. I don't know the pitching staff of the Cubs very well over the NL, but I do know on paper, on stats, our pitching staff was better than theirs last year. You got to pitch to that. You got to pitch that our young guys, yes, and Cubs got a lot of young guys too in that lineup, but our young guys are going to get better. We're going to get more developed. We're going to bring in more guys as well to kind of complement you. You got to make that pitch as well because. Yeah. I mean, Cubs are an up-and-coming team. Respect to the Cubs fans out there. They're up-and-coming, and they're not just something a team to take lightly anymore.
Also, do we know, is weed legal in Chicago?
I actually don't know.
Do we know if weed is legal in Illinois?
If it is, that's a big advantage. If it isn't, that's a big advantage to us.
I'm saying, you know, like, listen, you walk outside in Toronto, it's dispensary here, dispensary there. I have no idea if it is legal or not legal in Chicago, so please, guys, let us know in the comments down below. But, I mean, that's got to be a fucking selling point.
Well, I mean, hey, look at Kevin Gossman. Why do you think he's here, man? Not saying it's the only reason why he's here, but hey, it's a good selling point.
We're going to get all the stoners in
yeah.
You know, I mean, listen, I guess you can thank Trudeau for that.
Yeah,
you know, just say, we're going to get all the stoners now because weed is legal.
Right.
Somebody let us know in the comments if, in fact, that it might be an argument point right there.
Right.
But basically, folks, we are finalists for Cody Bellinger. We're actually going to be live tomorrow night going through all of this stuff. Little Cody Bellinger watch here. I imagine that there's going to be some news that breaks in the next 24 hours. And it feels like the way that they're talking about this right now, we might see a signing within potentially a week or so.
A lot of guys are coming off the board. So, guys, be there. Check it out. Also, $3 a month to become a Patreon member, guys. Shout out and thank you to all of our current Patreon members. You're absolutely awesome. And to our YouTube members as well. You guys kick ass.
Thanks so much for watching.
And go, Jays, go!